Hello everyone, and welcome to CommunityForce webinar. As most of you all know, my name is Mehreen Mirza, and I will be facilitating today's session. I'll also be answering your questions during the dedicated Q&A breaks, so please don't hesitate to ask anything throughout the session. We want the session to be as interactive and helpful to all of you. With me is our amazing Christine Smith, who will be our trainer for today and will walk us through all the relevant areas under today's topic. Now, before we get started and while others are still joining, I'd like to show you a few key features to help you make the most of this webinar. Now, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, there is a panel with an orange arrow. You can use this arrow to expand or collapse the panel. To ask any questions, simply type in the questions in the question area and click on Send or Enter. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can, either by typing them in or addressing them verbally during the Q&A breaks. If we miss answering any of your questions, don't worry, we'll follow up with our email responses after the webinar. Also, a copy of today's webinar is present in the handout section. Please click on the handout title to download it. This handout includes help guides and knowledge-based articles for each of the topics we are covering today. Also, for a smooth experience, everyone has been placed on mute to minimize any background noise. Let's see. Okay. Since most of you have joined, let's get started. The topic for today is communicating with users through CommunityForce. With that, I'll now hand over things to Christine. All yours, Christine. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your session.
And thank you, Maureen, so much for getting us started. So, of course, let's go ahead and get started with our introduction for today's session. So the webinar that we're having today is going to cover a brief overview of how to use the Notification Center. So we're going to be discussing how to look at your email templates and edit them, how to create customized email templates, and then also go over some of the key merge fields that are available to be added to those emails, maybe touch on what some of those are and what they're actually looking at on the site. And then we'll show you how to send emails. And then if you're using that SMS text messaging feature, if you have that on your system, we'll talk about how to send those messages to your applicants, as well as monitoring those, what has been sent on those. And then we'll also discuss how to edit existing email templates, and then how to take and review those as well. So then who's going to benefit from this webinar? So this is going to be any of the administrators responsible for sending out communication to the users. So when we talk about users, this would be any communication you're sending to your applicants, to your reviewers, or any others that are using the CommunityForce site. So we'll go over that. And then the topics we're going to talk about, first of all, is the Notification Center. So the Notification Center, we're going to talk about the different types of templates that are out there. We're going to talk about how to access system global templates, and then also application-specific email templates. And then we'll talk about how to edit those, how to create your own custom email templates. And then also I'm talking about the request nomination section template. So when you do have those request nomination sections, we're going to talk about how to create those specific emails that go with that process as well. Then we'll take a quick break. And during that Q&A break, that's where Maureen will address any of the questions that have come through during the first portion of the session, and then answer those questions. And then we'll go forward from there after that break and continue with the remaining topics of sending emails, how to do a batch email, how to cancel batches, individual emails, how to actually send them. So the first half will talk about actually how to create the templates. And then the second half will be covering how to send emails, how to send the text message, SMS features, and then other ways that you can view and send emails to like your reviewers, as well as the user setup functionality. So let's go ahead and get started with our first area. So since we're going to be covering the Notification Center, of course, where and how do you locate the Notification Center? So the Notification Center, when we talk about Notification Center, we're actually referring to the area where all the emails that have been designed on the site, where all those emails are housed is in the notification center. And so that's where you can access all of the emails. You can see the emails that have been created, and then we'll talk about those today. So the first area we want to talk about is the global notification center. So there's two areas to get to your email templates. You have the global notification center, which is on the administration tab. The global notification center lets you see every email for every application, including the system emails. That's the global. And then within each application form, you have application specific emails that are located in the notification center under each individual application. So I'm going to go to the global notification center first and go to the site here. Now I will be using a scholarship site, but if you are a grant user, please don't be alarmed. Just know that it is the exact same functionality. The verbiage may be just a little different on your grant site, but more than likely with the notification center, it'll be probably pretty much the same with the verbiage used on the site. So, but the way to access the items, that's all going to be the same. So the global templates are located under the administration tab. And so of course, if you're a global admin, you can access the administration global templates. Otherwise, if you have any other type of use, administration use, you would not have access to this tab. So if you need to have access, then you would probably want to get a hold of the global administrator for your site and see if they can allow access to the areas. So I've logged in, I've come to my administration tab, and I'm just going to expand this menu here because it hasn't been expanded yet. And the templates we're talking about today are going to be the templates here located under Global Notification Center. So the Global Notification Center, like we mentioned earlier, is where you're going to see every single email template that's on your site. So when you first open up the Global Notification Center, you're going to notice an drop-down field here at the top. And you'll notice right now it says select. So when there has not been any application selected, that is going to show you the email templates. So what I see down here at the bottom of the page, these are all the email templates pertaining to the system itself. They're not linked to any specific application. They are emails that go out, as you can see, like for the password, if they forgot a password, the grant administrator, if you change a password, the post-award updates. Some of these are email templates that are not tied to an application, like password change confirmation, password new account confirmation. So this is all things regarding when they first create their application form. They're going to be here because they're not tied to a specific application. So if you're looking for them in the application side and you're not finding them, you're like, oh, how do I change that password email? It's because you're not in the global notification center. You have to be located here to access these specific email templates listed. Now here, I'm going to touch on these specific templates. So if you first get your site, one of the things we recommend, and this is a good place to do it from the Global Notification Center, is to go out and click on all your email templates. Click on them by just clicking on the template name, reading those messages, and confirming that's the message you want to relay, as well as looking at the subject lines, because the subject line is that subject line when someone receives an email. It's that subject line they get. That's the first thing they're going to see, and make sure it's something that's going to have meaning to them, because you can see we have a very generic subject in our subject lines when we send them to you. So these are subject lines that you want to be something that is going to catch the attention of your users. They're going to see it, they're not going to think it's spam, and they're going to want to click on it because they know that it's something coming from you. So that's something we recommend that everyone do, is go to the Global Notification Center and read through all of your email templates to make sure that they're what they are, what you're wanting them to say. Now, if I go out to some of these templates, one of the things I want to touch on is using passwords in email templates. So since these are the ones that go out like with a new account, so anytime somebody creates a new account, they get the new account confirmation. So if they create their own account or you create an account for them, then this email goes out. Now you're going to notice in this email, this listing over here of the merge fields, you can include a password. But note that this password, anytime you put a password in an email template, which we have it default so that it has it, but this is something you need to think about, and you might want to determine within your organization, especially if there's multiple users and multiple departments, you want to make sure you're all on the same page with this. But do you want to include the password in these email templates? If you do, that's fine, but note that if you do include a password and you're giving the login information, then anyone who hacks your user's email has access to log into their account on the CommunityForce site. So that's something you might want to go through. If you don't want the password, you might want to remove it. But then again, make sure that you give them instructions on how to retrieve their password or how to create a password if they don't know what it is by using that forgot password functionality that's on the front screen of the page. So that's just one thing that we did want to address here on this specific area. So anywhere that there's a password, then you might want to question whether or not you want to use a password in your email templates. Okay, so now those are the system templates. So if I go back to the beginning of the notification center here, and since I said we were just on the select and these are the only templates we're seeing, what's nice about this notification center is, like I said, each application has its own batch of emails. So if you're wanting to look at all of them at once, you can actually hit this drop down. And here you're going to see a listing of all of my application forms. So if I'm wanting to make an adjustment from, across multiple templates, there's not a push functionality when you're changing email templates. But say there's an email template and maybe you have some information in that email template that's universal across all your applications. Then what you can do is you can actually open the templates within this functionality on the administration, the global. You can open up the template in one application, view it. If you want to copy the message, you can copy the message, and then you can go back to the notification center, select another email, another application, go to its notification center, find that exact email in that application, click on it, and then make a highlight it and then do your control paste to paste in that template. And then you can do that for multiple applications, and that way you can just cut and paste and then start pasting it into all the applications instead of having to go to each end of the home page, open up an application, go to the notification center. You can actually access all of those templates here on the global notification center by going to each application's notification center. And you can see as you're clicking on them, they're all going to fall within the same area. Now, some applications you may have custom templates that aren't in other ones, and so you can even do the same. Maybe you had a custom template, you need to send an email and you don't have it in one of your applications. You can open up this site area here. You can say, let's say maybe I have my one-to-one application here. I have a specific template I've created. You can go through the page, find the template that you've created. And then go ahead and just, you do your control A to copy, and then if you don't know how to do that, you can just highlight and copy, and then go to the other application you want to put it in, and we'll show you here in a minute how to create a new template, and then create that new template, and then paste this message into it, and all that stuff will flow over merge fields, everything. So that's why I like the Global Notification Center. If you're changing templates or you're creating templates for multiple applications, the Global Notification Center is very helpful for that as well, because you can access everything all in one area. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on, not to get confused, some tend to see this Global Notification Center and then see this Global Notification Default Templates. So the default templates are all of the templates that came with your site, the original templates before any changes were made, but you can make changes to these. So if you make changes to the default templates, then of course those are going to be changed. You won't have a history of them. But anytime you copy an application form, not cloning, but copy to create a new application, you create a new application, and you don't clone an application, you're creating a new application, you're going to copy over the global notification default templates. These are the templates that come over every time you create a new application form, not cloning. Cloning is going to bring over the email templates based off of the application that you cloned. But anytime you create a new application, these are the templates that were defaulted on the site when you originally got the system. So you can actually go in and edit these as well to what in going forward. So every time you copy an application that has a specific message, then you would want to do that as well. You want to open these up with clicking the edit, make your adjustments, and then going forward, anytime you create a new application, these are the templates that will come over in that as well. And so again, these are ones you want to look at the subject line, look at the messages, so that when you create a new application, you don't have to keep going in and making adjustments to those specific email templates. Now, of course, if you're cloning, then you're going to want to do that in the cloned version, make your adjustments in the cloned version of the application. Not these templates. These templates will not come over in a cloned application. So now let's go out here. And so that was the global notification center. So now I'm going to go home and I'm going to go into the application specific tab and how to get to the notification center based on the specific application. And then going forward, this is probably where we'll be making some of those changes and edits. So I'm home, and any application you want to add an email template to, if it's just for that one application, or you need to change your email messages, you want to see what your email messages are, so you've already got applications built, you're not sure what all of those email templates say, then you want to go home, and then you can go into that specific application. I'm just going to click on this one here. And then once you're in the application, you're going to go to where it says notifications. Select that. And now as soon as you open that up, you should be the top one is Notification Center. So this is for this application form. This is my 2025 one-to-many, the one that I selected from the home page. And these are the templates specific to just this application form. Now, every time I clone this application, these are the templates that are going to come over. So here are all my templates. You're going to notice over here template type. So these also say system. So anytime you see a template that says system template, those are all emails that are pre-designed emails, and the majority of them have some type of a trigger in the system that causes that email template to be sent. So of course, additional information request. That's the email that goes out when you release a section to an applicant. Applicant accepts an award. So whenever an applicant clicks the accept button to accept an award, that's the email that goes out to them. So the ones that say system, the majority of them, like I said, are going to be functionalities that we've created. There's coding in the background tied to these emails that cause that email, that scenario will trigger the email to go out based on that event that happened. So those, again, you want to click on each of these and see what those messages are. So now let's talk about, okay, editing. So editing an email template is very simple. It's just a matter of coming here, clicking on the email template you want to change. And then once you're here, This is the message of that. So if you want to change the subject line, you can come here. And if you wanted to add something here, you could do something like that. The description is internal, so that's something you see internally. Notice it's a system template, so you cannot change the system type. Okay, and then down here is the actual body. So it's just like a regular message. You know, anytime you're changing an email, you can just come in here and you can type whatever you want to. I see there's maybe an extra space there, so I want to take that out. If you want to change the messages, you can just change those. Now, here's where you want to make note and listen carefully. In the email templates that we've created, especially ones that are triggered by specific events, use extreme caution in removing fields with brackets, or coming in here and adding extra spaces in those fields, removing a space, changing the verbiage, anything like that. Do not do that, because these are specific items that are specific to that email. These are merge fields. If you remove or you mess with something within the brackets, you're going to break the merge, or if you remove it, of course, it's not even going to be merging to the specific item. So the importance of that, I like to open this template so that you can see why that's important. So this was the email template that went out when you release a section to someone. So of course you see here, it's got this merge field sections. So if you were to come in here and say, oh, I don't need that in there, and you remove that, when the applicant gets this email now, it's not going to know what the released section was. This is specific to this specific email. So a lot of those system templates have merge fields that are specific just to that email. And then there's another, it's got coding that ties to it, and that's the one that needs to be for this specific email. The same with this comments. You're going to see in other email templates a field called comments. Those aren't going to be the same comments. You don't want to copy this and put this in another template that has nothing to do with this process, because the comments here are the comments specific to this release a section functionality. So if you're familiar with the release a section functionality, there's an area where the person releasing the section can enter a comment as to why you're releasing it. So if you were to remove that, then that comment would not be there. If you try to pick a comment from another email template, it's going to not pick the comment up from the correct area. This is directly tied to the comment for this specific email template. So that's things you want to use caution. So when you're doing email templates that are system and you're not sure the functionality, one, get familiar with the functionality. What's the trigger that triggers that email to go out? And then the actual email fields, what are these merge fields and what are they looking at? So this one, like I said, is a specific process. So this comment is going to be different than comments in just a general email that you create. Now let's go into how to edit. So once you're done editing, of course, before we get out of that, but once you're done editing, anytime you make an edit, you do want to click the update button to update the changes that you've made. So that's very important as well. So now we're going to talk about creating custom email templates. So you know how to get into an existing template, you know how to edit it. It's just like editing an editor box anywhere. But now we're going to talk about creating custom email templates. So with creating custom email templates, there's two types of custom email templates that can be created. Just a general custom template that you maybe you have certain functionality that you want to send out emails to specific applicants based on specific processes that you have. You want to create email templates to send to those individuals, then you would use the custom feature to do that. The other type of custom email is an email that you're creating to link to your request sections in your application. And so each, say you have multiple request sections, maybe you have a request section, maybe you're a grant user and you have a request section where you're requesting the executive director to sign something, so you're creating a request section for the executive director to sign off on. You need an email template. Maybe within that same application, you have another request section that has nothing to do with the executive director. Maybe it's a sponsoring organization and you need the sponsoring organization to sign off on something, so you created a request section. You need a different email. So when those types of emails are called nomination request section emails, and they have a specific template that you need to select when creating those. So we're going to talk about both of these types of emails, just general emails in general, and then emails that are tied to request sections. How do you create those templates? So I'm going to go out here to the site again, and we're going to talk about the basic template first. So when you're in the notification center here and you want to create a new template, it's just like it says over here, create template. Here's all the templates you have. You click on those to edit existing ones, but you can go to create template to create a whole new template. Now, when you click on the create template, it's going to open up this page. You can only, like I said, create custom. System templates are only there for us and our team to create. Anytime you can't create a system template, because of course, in order for a system template to be created, there has to be programming and triggers happening in the background to cause that to happen. So you can only create custom templates. So you want to make sure your template type says custom. And then of course here it says copy an existing template or create new. So the add new template is if you have a add new template, you can start from scratch without any templates whatsoever. But what's nice is you can see here we have not only add new, but we also have the ability to copy an existing template or create new. So when you click within this box here, the add new is for a clean slate. But if you wanted to, you can actually copy from an existing template that's out there. This is especially helpful when doing those request templates, which we'll talk about in a minute. But if there's a template out there already that's verbiage is very similar to what you're using, maybe you have specific awards and you're going to be manually sending emails out to your applicants based on specific awards, but they have different messages, then maybe you can guess, maybe it's just a verbiage change. Maybe it's one little paragraph, but everything else is the same. Then what you can do is you can actually find it here in the listing here, the one that you want to make a copy of. And let's say, let me just do, let's see. A request for signature. Okay, so this is a nomination template. I shouldn't choose that one just yet. Reporting deadlines. Let's click on that one. So here is a template that's already been made. Again, your subject line is very important because that's what the applicant or the individual receiving it's going to be seeing. And then the description is what you see inside, but then here's the template. So you can see this one has a lot of information in it. And so I don't want to have to keep typing this every time. So now I've got this template. It's got all the merge fields in there for me. All I want to do is maybe change, maybe I want to create this template, but I want to take some of the verbiage out and I want to keep the one I had and create a new one. So what I can do reporting deadlines, and then up here in the name, this is important. This is the new name I'm giving to a template. I'm keeping the old one, but I'm also creating another one that's very similar to it. So now I know it's reporting deadlines too. So when it creates this template, I've got reporting deadlines and I've got reporting deadlines too, without dates, maybe something to that extent. Or maybe instead of without dates, I might be able to use some merge fields instead of having those dates entered in manually. So here I'm going to look at my message. I'm going to look at what it says. So this is by now you should have received. This was in regards to some dates after an award. And so the merge fields are in here. And so some of these merge fields I want to go over because they can get confusing. So applicant first name, last name, email address, that's pretty self-explanatory. Grant and fellowship name, this is the actual name of the funding source that is directly tied to the application form. So if you're doing a one-to-many process, this is that posting fund. If it's a one-to-one application, this is the actual fund name. Application name, that's the name that you named your application. So what the applicants see when they go to apply is they're always seeing the grant fellowship name, and then that's the name of the fund that's directly tied to it. That's the grant fellowship, not the application name is the name when you created the application and the general information and gave it a name. That's the application name. The grant name is what is posted and what the applicants see when they click the apply button. If you have a one-to-many application process, so this is why this is important, and you're talking about awards, you wouldn't use the grant and fellowship name based off of the application. You would be using your awarding fields down here, which would actually include the name of the award also. If it's a one-to-one application, then if you use the grant fellowship name, it's going to be the one tied to it. And the reason I talk about that is when we're talking about the grant fellowship name, let me go to the home page because it might make a little bit more sense to you. The grant fellowship name is going to be this name right here. So if it's a one-to-one, that's the name of the award that they're receiving. But if it's a one-to-many, it's a posting fund. It's not the actual award that they're receiving. So when you see that grant fellowship name, don't think, oh, that's the award they're receiving because I'm doing my awarding. No, it's the name of the fund that's directly tied to the application when they go live. So that's why we want to talk and make sure you can get the differentiation between those. This is the name of the grant name in the field. This is the name of the grant name in the field that you're pulling into it. This is the application name. This is the grant name. When you look at this page, this is what the grant name is going to be. This is what the application name is going to be. If you have multiple grants tied to that fund, then of course that's not the fund that you're awarding. So that's where you got to use caution. That's where some people get confused as to, they put that in their email template in their award letters thinking that's the award they're awarding in a one-to-many process. So it's a caution in a one-to-many process of using that specific name when you're doing award letters and talking about the fund that they've received. So if I go back into here, and if you have a one-to-many process, then you definitely understand what I'm talking about. If you don't, then you just have that direct fund, of course, then it's not as big of an issue. But with a one-to-many, it is an issue if you're using that specific field. Okay, so now just some of the templates since we're here. We've got application deadline, so that's the deadline date based off of the general information field. This is additional optional details comments. So this is that comment field. Remember I showed you that one that was within the process? This is the general comments field. So when you're on a, when you change the status of an applicant, and in the process of changing a status, it says a little box, include in applicant comments, then that would be something that would be a comment in a comment message. The contact name. So if you use these fields here, contact first name, contact last name, contact email, contact phone, those merge fields are looking at the application contact you created when you created your application form in the general information. If you did not create a contact in your general information, application contact, these fields will be blank. If your application contact doesn't have an email or a phone number somewhere, or the phone number for specifically when you created their account, then if you use this contact phone and that merges to their contact information in the user account, and there's no phone number, that field will be blank. So when you're using these fields, make sure that whoever your contact person is on your application contact has these fields completed. And also make sure you have an application contact tied to your application form, because if you use these fields, then those will be blank when the email goes out. Also, within the general information screen of your application setup, you have a reply to. This is where this specific reply to email is looking at. Again, you can see here this password. So I'm in a custom template. I do have a merge field password that I can add to it. So like anytime you're creating templates, especially if you're copying from templates, you may have some of these fields and you may not. If you open up a template from an existing template and it's got different fields, those fields are just for that specific template, just so you know. And so when you're creating a clone of that, you can use those fields. However, you can't just copy it and then come here to a blank one. If it doesn't have it over here, you can't use that merge field in your email template. The other one I want to talk about is the email template. Let's see, the field within an email template. Let me see which one of these would have this. This one probably has it. Right here, signature. So we see we have a signature and we have a reply to email. The reply to email is looking at the general information reply to. The signature, however, can look at two places. The signature field is a signature field that's located within site settings. So anytime you create a email template within an application form, the system's going to go to two places. The first place it's going to go is within the application fund that's directly tied to it. So it's going to look at this fund. It's going to look at this fund. It's going to look at this fund. And it's within that funding opportunity. When it was built, there was a signature line within that funding opportunity. So I'm going to go to the fund so you can see what signature line I'm talking about. So this is the first place it's going to look at when it's on it looking for the signature. I'm just going to pick this one here. So it's looking at, go to the edit. And within the edit, if you scroll down, there's a field called email signature. So the first place it looks at when it sees that merge field signature is it goes to the fund that's directly tied to the application form and looks at that email signature and uses that one. However, if it comes to that fund and this field is blank, it's then going to jump to the administration site setting. Administration manage settings. And it's going to look at this signature. So if it looks, it's going to look at the fund first. If it doesn't see anything, it's going to then go to the site setting and use this signature. So anytime you want a signature to have more details, like the one you saw in my fund, make sure that when you're setting up your fund that you're directly tying to your application form, that you add that longer signature, because otherwise it's going to bypass it if it's blank and it's going to use this shortened version of a signature. So if you're wondering where it gets that from, that's where that specific field within an email template called signature, that's where it's getting its data from. So now let's go back to the application. Notifications. Notification center. And then let's go back to create template. And then of course, when you want to put an, let's name this one here real quick, a test 1. So here, to put in and use merge fields, it's just a matter of typing it. It's just like entering merge fields if you're used to doing merge fields in a Word document or a Google Doc or something. It's the same way. You type it, and then here you highlight the item in red. And paste it in. So you just Control C, Control and paste, Control, and then you make sure you do your spacing, and then come over here. You want to pick up the next one, but you do want to make sure you get both brackets. Control C, Control V to paste, and then continue typing, and then plug in your other message, your templates and merge fields from that template that you wish to put into your template. Now you'll notice when I was talking, I jumped over these. I'm going to pull up an award template here. Let's see if I can get it to come up with both the fields. And we're going to talk about that because that's important to know too. Yes. Okay. So depending on if you have a one-to-one process or a one-to-many process, you're going to notice here you've got two different awards fields. I opened up an award template so it would give me these fields. So we have final award and initial award. So this is when you have an application that has only one single funding source tied to it. These are the merge fields that you would use for the awarding, the final or the initial based on what you're sending the message on. If you've attended our awarding webinars, that will go into detail as to what those are. And then we have the multiple award details. This is when you have multiple funds. This is where it's going to give you the award details of the name of the award and the amount that was awarded. So if they have 3 awards, they've gotten 3 awards, it'll give you all 3 names of the fund and then the amount per fund. So that's why you've got 2 different fields, one for a single and one for the multiple. And so that's the field. So then of course, it's just a matter of creating your template and then hitting save to save that template, and then you'll now have it in the system to use in that drop-down listing. Now the other template we wanted to talk about too is the nomination template, the add new nomination template. So when you're creating templates for request sections, you want to select, instead of selecting the add new template, you want to select the add new nomination template. That way the system knows, okay, this is a nomination template. And then, or if you want, you can actually copy a nomination template and it will give you the same data. But if you're creating a new one from scratch, you want to use the add new nomination template. And then down here, these are the merge fields for that specific email template. That's the name of the recommender. That's the applicant's name that's recommending. All right, this is the person they're recommending it to. So instead of saying dear applicant, you would make it dear recommender, because it's not going to the applicant, it's going to the person that was recommended by the applicant to receive the message. Let me pull one up here so you can see. There's the request for signature. Right here. This is a nomination template. And here it's got dear recommender name, first name, last name, the name of the application, the comments. So this is the comments. This is a different comment field. This is another one that's important because it's a different comment. This is the comments for the recommender that the applicant entered in that functionality. There's a comment box that the applicant can enter. The URL is important because that is the URL of your site. So if they can't click the link, there's a request details link that takes them directly to the area that they're to complete. If they can't click links because they have security on their system and they can't click through on emails, then you can give them the URL. There's also an access code. This is for the nominator. On the login page is a nomination login area. If they can't click a link, then they can go to the site. They have the URL. They can copy and paste, and then they can go to the site and enter this code to log in. So that's an important one. That access code and the URL, you want to make sure you have in those, because otherwise, if they can't click a link, which is like this one's the request details link, then they can't get to the section that they need to complete. Section due date, that's an important one because they need to know when that due date of that section is to be completed. Another one, a denies link. Maybe you have a request and then they also can have a deny link. Maybe they want to deny access. They don't want to do it. You can actually put that link within the email to give them the option to either request it or deny it directly from it. And then you can do a long URL or a short URL for the URL, but you always make sure you have the URL and the access code. Those are important to have in those nomination templates, because if they can't click a link to get directly to the section, then they can highlight it, copy, paste it to their browser, go to the site's homepage, and in the bottom right-hand corner is a nominator login, and that's where they enter this code. So those are important for the nomination templates. You want to make sure you have those fields in there. And then those are right here. When you create a template, it's going to have those there. But the recommender name, that is important because you don't want it going to the applicant. You want it to go to the recommender. And so that's why you need to, when you create a new template, you want the system to know it's a nomination template, or when you're creating it from an existing one, you want to make sure to use one that's already a nomination template. Okay, so that is pretty much creating templates. I'm going to take a quick break here and answer any questions that came up. Maureen, it's all yours.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, so we have a question. Can I add additional default email templates? Under administration, as Christine has showed, there were default email templates that come with your website when it's initially, when you're initially onboarded. So those default email templates, you cannot add more default email templates, neither can you delete any of those default email templates. However, you have the ability to edit those, as Christine has mentioned. So no, you cannot add more default email templates. Can I delete any of the unused system email templates? No, the system email templates cannot be deleted. Some of them automatically go out, for example, when the applicant submits the application. So that submission email goes out to the applicant from the system. So if we delete something, they are associated with the functionality at the back end. So we cannot delete any of those system email templates. However, you may think that they're not being used by you. They're not manually being used by you, but maybe at the back end they're tied up to some sort of functionality. Okay, there is a question at the bottom of my email template that says, just a second, let me read this out. This is an automatic notification from XYZ. Is there a way to delete this or edit this out? Well, that's a disclaimer that CommunityForce adds to all of their email templates. We cannot edit or change that as of now, but we'll take it back to our development team and see if in the future we can have that ability to edit the disclaimer from the front end. I think there are just two more questions, Christine. Let me complete those. Can I add attachments to my email? So this is universally, I believe, for your post acceptance section. If you want to send out some sort of an RSVP something, then you cannot add an attachment to the email template. However, if there is an image or a file, share it with us. We will add it as a link to your email template. So that image or the file that you have, you don't need to share it as an attachment. We will add it as a link to the email template. So reach out to us and we'll help you with that. Can I add images? Well, I would suggest not to add images, because with the strict IT policies around all of our clients or client sites or your inboxes, it is best that you don't add images. However, if it is absolutely necessary, then do feel free to add it. Just an opinion that, or just an advice, if you do add the images to your email templates, then it might end up in spam or junk folders, because the IT company, that ITs, that they block some of the details from being reaching the recipient, those filters that they have in place, that might not get those emails into the main inbox of the recipient. So that's from my side, Christine. Back to you. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Maureen. So now that we've talked about creating the templates and where you go to do that, let's talk about how to send templates. So sending templates, there's two different ways. You can send batch emails, which we'll talk about first. Batch emails allow the admins to send bulk emails to a group of applicants based on their status or status detail. So if you have, like, let's say you have a group of applicants that's getting close to deadline, everyone who's pending submission, you want to send an email to notify them it's the deadline. You don't have to go look through your list of applicants, select each one, try to determine who's pending, who's not. You can actually do a batch and say, give me everyone pending submission, and send an email out. So to do batch templates are done from the notification center. So we're still here from the home. I've selected an application. Batch emails can only be done from the application. You can't do that from the global notification center. So I'm here on my individual application. I went into the notifications tab. I'm here on the notification center. And here in my notification center, you're going to notice these tabs across the top. Right here, it says notify. So if I click the notify here, this is how I get to the send a batch of emails to a batch of applicants. So here I am. It's going to come from admin at communityforce.com. That's the default admin that comes from anytime an email template is set. And then over here where it says application status. So if I want to send all my pending submission, I just select the status I want to send all these to. It'll tell me how many individuals there are. I have 8 individuals right now that are pending submission. And then I can go here. If I want to do application status, I can do that as well. I can drill down to that. And then over here, the select date, I can either leave it blank and have it go out today, or I can select a date. Maybe I want to set this up ahead of time so that I don't have to think about it. And what's nice is if I select, let's say I don't want this to go out till next Sunday. I can actually say, send it to my pending submission, even though I have 8 right now, and I can set a time. And then based on when this email goes out, that's what it's going to go out and look at the pending submission at the date that I'm sending it. Not the date that I created it, but the actual date I sent it. And it's going to send it only to those who are pending submission on that date and time. So that's what's nice. I can go ahead and create this ahead of time, this batch, and say send to all my pending submission. And then I can go, maybe I have an email template already created regarding deadline approaching, application deadline approaching. So I can create an email template. I have it already built. If I don't have one built, I can do the message here and create it real quick. But if I have one built already, I can just go to the template, select it, say send it to all of my pending submission on November 30th. So November 30th, 2 o'clock is going to come, and it's going to go out, look at who are pending submission at that time, and send that specific email to them. So I can set this up in advance, and then it'll send it out to those individuals based on this batch functionality. And of course, once I set it up, then I just go ahead and hit send. And then it's going to say, do you want to send it? Yes or no. And then since I have it November 30th at 2 p.m., then it's in the batch waiting to go out now on that specific date. Now, what about, let's say I create a batch and it's not going to go out for a specific date, but I realize, you know what, I didn't want to do that. I didn't mean to do that. How do I cancel this message? I don't want to send this message. How do I cancel it? So over here, we have what's called batch schedules. So anytime you create a batch message, like for instance, the one I just sent, you'll notice over here, there is a caveat. You cannot cancel up to 10 minutes prior to the scheduled time. So if it's November 30th at 1:50 p.m., I will not be able to stop this batch. However, I just created it. If I want to stop it, I can by just coming over here, hitting the cancel. Once I hit the cancel, it will then cancel that email and it will no longer be sent out. Okay, and then I don't have to worry about it not going out. So then you can come here, you can see that you've created it, but then you can also cancel it, and then you can see here, this is the batch schedule, and then that's how you can stop it. If you want to know the details of the batches that you sent out, you go to batch schedules, you can click details. Maybe you're like, oh, who did it send it to? I'm kind of curious. If you open up the details, you can see everyone that it's sent to as well, if you're curious to know who got that specific email. So that's from the notify and batch schedules. That's how you monitor. Notify is where you send them. Batch schedules is where you can monitor the batches themselves, the batch schedules. And then, of course, the notify status also, if you go there, it also will give you the status of every single email that went out from that batch also. But I like to go to the batch schedules and look at the details, because then I know the details of that specific batch and I don't have to filter through here. I can actually see for the specific batch, what were the details and who did it go out to. Okay, so that's for batch sending. Now, individual emails, to send an individual email, it's just a matter of going to that individual through any report that has a notify button. So I'm going to do it from the manage applications. Notice here I have a notify. So maybe I just want to send one message to this specific applicant. I can select it. I can hit notify. And then here's my blank slate. I can choose a template if I have one already, or I can start with a blank slate and give a specific message to this specific person that I'm sending. Whatever I type here is the message that's going to go out. Now from this page, maybe I have multiple individuals that I want to send the same message to. It's just a matter of selecting them. And this is per page. So whoever I select on this page, when I click the notify, that's who it's going to send that message to. So it's not based on any status or status detail. It's based on who I've selected on that specific page, and then click the notify. And then again, create your email. You can schedule the email to go out at a different date. So you can schedule it where you can have a date and time, or if I cancel, you can go back in. If I don't schedule it, I have a send now, and then it would send the message at that time. Okay, and then once you send that message, let me get out of here. When you look at notification date here, whoever you sent that message to, this date is the last message you sent to them. So this notification date, anytime you see this notification date, it'll give you the last date that they were notified. If you want to drill down even further, again, you can go to notifications, go to notify, and then this will give you, not notify status, go to notify status, clicked on the wrong one there. And then this again will also give you all the emails that went out to a specific individual. You can actually search for that individual. Maybe you want to know how many times did I send an email to Tammy. I'll just put in Tammy, search. And then I've only sent one to her, and this was the email that I sent to her. So if you're wanting to check an email, you think you sent it, and you've done it like 3 emails ago, and the one that it's showing, you're like, maybe that's not the one I want. Well, how do I find what ones I've sent to her? Then you can go to the notify status and then search for their name, and it'll show all the emails you specifically sent them. Now, just so you know, this notify status is only for emails that you've sent. System emails will not show here in the status. This is only for emails that you've specifically sent out to individuals. Okay, so that's how do you send it to individuals. Now, the SMS functionality. The SMS functionality will be present on your site if you've purchased that from CommunityForce. And when you use the SMS feature, one thing you want to be sure of is in order to use it, you have to have Twilio. And then once you have Twilio, then we can make that connection for you. But most importantly is before you start sending text messages to applicants, you want to make sure that they've got a cell phone number listed in their user account under cell phone. So whenever you activate this feature, the next thing you want to do is go to all your applicants and make sure you have a cell phone number for them. Any applicants that apply, you want to make sure that there's a cell phone that when they create a new account, that is when this is activated, that is a requirement that they enter a cell phone number. But if you've activated this and you've already got existing applicants, you do want to make sure that all of those applicants' email or cell phone numbers have been entered under their email account under the user profile. Then once everything's activated, to send a message, it's just a matter of selecting them, hit notify via SMS, and then it'll give you their phone number here of who it's going to. If you select multiple applicants, you can do a message to multiple applicants. You want to make sure that they all have phone numbers when you look at that listing. And then down here is where you type the message. Of course, there's no templates for that. It's just select, open it up, type your message, and hit send now. So that's how you would use that functionality. Another email area that you need to be aware of is when you send emails to committee members. Of course, any applicant that you're sending and you hit the notify, it's going to send it to the applicant. So of course, in order to send emails to reviewers, you do have to be in a specific area to do that. There's two ways to do that. Under the evaluations tab of the application form, under manage committees, you can send a message to the entire committee by selecting here and hitting notify, and then creating a quick message to that committee member, to all of those members, by typing your message and clicking send. So that's under manage committees, select the committee, hit notify, and that'll submit a message to all of the committee members on that committee. The other area, if you've done our assignments to committees, we did an evaluation training. We talked about assignments to committees where you do the assignments. Under that assignment screen, you can send messages to committee members, to the ones that have been given assignments, by selecting the assignment that they've been given. And then over here, notify reviewers. And then when you notify reviewers, of course, you don't want the message going to the applicant. So how do you get the reviewer name here? You do need to select a specific template. That specific template is called Committee Applications Are Ready for Review. And as soon as you select that one, you'll notice the merge fields changed. And I now have the Dear Reviewer first name, reviewer last name. That's very important when you're sending email templates from this functionality, that you choose this template so that you have those fields and it's going to the correct person. Otherwise, it's going to send it to the applicant. You don't want it to go to the applicant, you want it to go to the reviewer. And so when you click the notify reviewers, that's how it's going to give you that functionality to be able to send it to the reviewer and not the applicant. So that's for the reviewer emails. The other area where you can send emails to specific individuals, so we've covered applicants, how to send messages to them. We've talked about recommenders. Through that recommendation email, you want to make sure that that email template has their names in it, recommenders for nomination templates. We've talked about reviewers, how to send emails to the reviewers that are being assigned evaluation reviews to your applicants. And then the last place we want to talk about is talking to any user on your site. So even if it's an admin, maybe you want to send an email to one of your administrators. How do you do that? Well, you can do that from the CommunityForce site. The way you do that is you go to administration. Under administration, that's where all your users are. There's a very generic template. So let's say maybe if I filter here, search, role type, department admin search. So maybe I want to send a message to all my department admins. I can actually, I have 3 of them. I can come here. Anyone who has an account in the setup users, you can do this too. You can select who you want to send it to. Come over here, there's a notify button. Click notify. And then here you can send a very basic message, first name, last name, email ID, and then a signature. And that signature is going to look at the signature on the site setting because it's not tied to any application form. And then here you can send a real quick message to them and then hit send now, and it'll send that message. Maybe you want to notify all your admins something's going to happen to the site. Hey, everybody, just wanted to let you know the site's going to be down internally. Don't be alarmed. It'd only be like a 5-minute shutdown or something like that. That would be something that you might want to send. And then you can hit send now and send it to them. So that's from the setup users. That's a message you can send to anyone who has a user account. So if somebody wants to know how do I send it to my admins, then that's how you can do that. Just a general message to everyone or just to one specific admin. Then you come here and select them and hit notify. So that's all. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there and see if any additional questions came in. Maureen, it's all yours.
Yes, Christine, just a few. Just a second here. Okay. We tried sending some emails to our applicants, but they have not received any of the emails. So number one, what you might want to do is, as Christine has mentioned, if they were under batch emails, go back and look for the notify status. That's important. If the emails are being shown as sent, that means to say that the emails have been sent out successfully. But for some reason, at the recipient end, the emails were blocked. So please check that first. If the emails, thank you so much, Christine, notify status, right? And then check if the status says email sent or email not sent. If it says email not sent, after the time has been passed, then reach out to us. Thank you, Christine. Reach out to us, open a ticket with us on Zendesk, or reach out to us on clientsuccess@communityforce.com because these are important, issues. Any delay could cause delays in your processes, etc. So reach out to us as an urgent issue, and we'll look for it at the back end. There might be something that needs to be addressed from the back end. So we'll look into that. And another question is, does the system record bounce back or read receipt emails? No, unfortunately, there's a limitation to the emailing system, or in CommunityForce. You cannot see if the recipient has actually opened an email or read the email, or the email has bounced back. So that's a limitation that cannot be done in the system. And okay, this one, so a little context is the application has been cloned and it is set up. But before I open the application, can I schedule emails to go out of the system to notify my applicants that the application is going to begin on so and so date? Well, for you to initiate any email, you need to have some sort of recipients. The recipients are the ones that are the applicants. Without having any applicants associated with the application, you will not be able to notify anyone. So no, the answer is no, you cannot. You need to have applicants first apply. However, the alternative is to post the fund onto your website, social media, etc., and then maybe send out an email from your system to all the applicants, prospective applicants that might come in and apply. So those are my questions, Christine. I think I've answered all the questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maureen, so much for going over those questions with everyone. So again, this brings us to the end of today's session. So it's important, of course, like always, to get a copy of today's handout so that you can get the resources, because there's a lot to cover. And fortunately, we do have to move a little fast to be able to cover the topics for today, but you have these links where you can drill down into the user guides and go to our knowledge base and get more in-depth details on the topics that we covered today. And then, of course, as always, we do appreciate your attendance and coming to today's session. So we do appreciate all of you attending and taking time out of your busy schedules. We know it's not easy sometimes, especially as we get closer to the end of the year. Your schedules get busy, so we do appreciate you taking time to attend. And we hope that it was beneficial for you and that you did learn something. There will be a survey at the end of today's session. So if you have any feedback, we would appreciate that through that survey. Please feel free to fill that out so that we can know how to provide you with the training that is most beneficial to you. And of course, if you do have any sessions that you want to look back on, we do have this YouTube site that has a listing of all the webinars that we've held that get updated regularly. So feel free to go out to that to also look for some videos and help guides as well. And then as always, if you have any additional questions or want to talk to a client support specialist regarding your processes, please feel free to reach out to Zendesk, and within that Zendesk ticket, put a request for a client support specialist to meet with you. If you want a process review, put that in the support ticket as well, and then someone can assist you with that and get you connected with the correct individuals. So we thank you, everyone, and we hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week and enjoy. Thank you so much. Goodbye.